Hello everyone, and glad you're here to watch the recording for week 6. And you can see that week 6 goes from February 11th to 17th, and it's project 5. It's called Quiz Show. And as we take a look at this, of course, you have your standard watch the recording and do the Class Connect write-up. And just like you have done through all the other projects, you'll go through the labs doing the steps exactly as you're supposed to, and this lab will create a quiz show. And then at the end, of course, you'll do the quiz and use the quiz study guide. And now one thing I want to make sure you're aware of, I sent emails out about this last week, and I have it in the announcements, is that starting in week 5 or project 5, so project 5, 6, and 7, you will not do the assignment part. You will only do the lab project for those. I'm finding that it's the students are having much more difficult time on those. The early ones aren't too bad, like in project 1, 2, and 3. Those follow-ups, that's not a big deal, and even number 4. But students having trouble with some of these, and it's just really difficult in an online environment to help you out the best way on fixing your issues. Now I have that in the announcements up here, so if you can look up here, important. The required assignments, you can see that for projects 4, 5, 6, and 7, you will not do the assignment part. You'll only do the project programs, the ones that walks you through the labs and such. Now, based on that, I've revised the passing plan, so you want to go in here, take a look at the passing plan to see how that would fit you better to make sure you pass this class. Okay, jumping on down, so we're into project 5. And in project 5, to piggyback on what I said about assignments, if I click assignment right here, it's going to say, submit just project 5 work to quiz show. So you're not doing the standard follow-up assignment. All right, let's jump into this. So project 5, and again, project 5 is called quiz show. And in this one, what you'll do, you'll create kind of an opening screen like this. And this will be the quiz. So people will answer the quiz that you're going to create. So let's go to the, we'll move through this a little bit before we go to the Class Connect write-up. But you'll see in this one, we're going to use different comments. If you remember, before our comments were // but this comment right here, this allows you to make multi-line comments. So we're going to be able to create a title screen by using the comment command. We're going to look at classes and objects. Some of you might be familiar with that. Look at different types of variables, private and public methods and variables. And some for loops, we use lots of those. And finally, you'll see that we're going to do lots with what are called streams, and information from a text file, reading from and writing to text files. So it's really getting into much more involved programming. But again, you have the lab that takes you right through this exactly, don't you? So in planning this, you'll see that what it will do is there's going to be a high score list, and then it would show the title screen. It's going to create a question, objects, set the values for the objects. Then it will ask the question: did the player win enough to get a high score? Yes. Then it goes back and puts them on the high score screen. No. Then it's going to show the high score list, and then it's going to set the new high score list, and then it's going to go back up here and run through it again. So that's how that program works. So getting into Lab 1, let's go look at the write-up. Of course, you always want to answer these questions. So Lab 1, what is the exact name of the file you will create for this unit? So you're going to open Visual Express as always. And you're going to create a new console project. You did this in the last unit, so you should know how to do this. So once you have it open, File, New, Project, so you can see on the screen how to do that. Go into Win32. So it's just some hints on making sure you're getting into it the right way. Under Visual Studio, installed templates. Click Win32 console application. So you just do these steps exactly, right? And you're going to name this quiz_show. So quiz show is what you're going to name it. And of course you want to make sure on the location that you end up getting it to the location in the course that you set up with profiles, username, C++, etc. where everything is saved. Remember, you have your own username that you have, and you put it all in there. So follow these directions, and again, if you can't follow the screen directions like this, you can click right here where it says watch the demo, and this will show you exactly how to do those things. So as you start to do it, you're going to start creating the CPP files, and you're going to change the name to quiz_show. So you'll have a folder called quiz show, and then of course you'll have files called quiz show. Make sure you name things exactly. So you want it to be just like this. Make sure it doesn't have quiz show on there 2 times. And then you click add, and that'll create the CPP file for you. Now looking at the comments, you'll see that by using this, the comment is going to have line breaks in it. So as you can see up here, you'll begin it with the slash and the asterisk, then you'll end it with the slash and the asterisk. But the one thing to think about is the asterisk will need, on both the beginning and the ending, will need to be inside the slash, so you can see how that goes. But that allows you to have multi-line comments. Before we just use the double slashes. So if we go back to the write-up, see if I have a question about that. Explain how this is different from this comment and what they do. So as we just said, this lets you create multi-line comments. This is just a single line or a single sentence of comments. So you can see how you can do that. Little self-test, what will the value of total be after running this code? So the integer is going to be 50, and then of course right here, what do we have here? Well, this is a comment, right? So did the number 50 change at all? No, it didn't. So let's see if 50 is correct. It is. Okay. Again, now you're into your program and you're following these steps just like you've done always. You're going to go ahead and create all these comments. So do all that exactly. Now you need to set it up, and of course you always set it up with the standard lines that we have. See, now you're putting in the double line comment. So you're going to add your IO stream, you're going to include, in this you're going to include the string, the standard namespace, so all the stuff that you normally do, you need to get set up. And you're going to create a title screen. And the title screen, what it does, introduces a user to the program. So it tells the user what the program is, and sometimes might say what it's going to do and things like that. So you're going to create this screen just like that. Now to add the title screen, you're going to be using the calc command. So of course you're going to put your proper brackets in, and you see this calc command, and we know that the calc command prints whatever is on the line. So if we go back to our screen, see all these asterisks? That's going to be used. The calc command is going to do that. Then another calc command. So this is going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, what about 8 or 9 calc commands, isn't it? So that's what you're going to work through on this. So you'll see there's the first calc command. There's the second calc command. Then you're going to have the third one, fourth one, etc. So you can see, just go through, create those calc commands, and that's going to create your opening screen, your title screen. So make sure yours is exactly like that. Let's go back to the write-up, make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, okay, we did all of those questions questions 1, 2, and 3. Good. Now you're going to center the title screen. So once you create this, you're going to have to do a little bit of work on it to make sure it shows right. So again, just follow these directions so that your title screen opens up right, and then you're going to add the last one because that's going to be a line break. So then it'll put a blank line in there before you go down to put in the by or the other information to run the program. So down here you can see this is what yours is to look like. So make sure yours looks like that. Pretty basic, pretty simple, isn't it? So you can run debug, build if it asks you to, and then when you run it, this should show up on your screen because this is pretty basic. There aren't any loops or anything like that, so you should get that on the screen. So fix that now before you can move ahead. So we learned how to do multi-line comments and created a title screen. And now into Lab 2, we're going to start adding questions to our quiz. So open the Quiz Show project so you should know how to do that. And remember, and I've told you before, don't just go click on the project to open it. Open up the Visual Basic or the C++ first, then go to File, Open, Project Solution, go find it, do all of this right. Don't just go to your folders to open it because it does not necessarily open it up the right way. Let's go to the write-up to see what else we have. What is an object in programming? What is an advantage of having multiple objects in the same class? So in C++ or lots of object-oriented programming, an object is a special type of data that has its own variables and functions. So that's what an object is. And you're going to create a number of objects. And objects and classes can get a little bit confusing, so don't let it bug you. Just follow the directions for the lab and things will come out right. And then we have a class. That's the variables and functions that an object will have. Now an advantage of a class is that that the object from the same class can store the same information and use the same functions. So if we go back to the write-up question, it said, what is an advantage of having multiple objects in the same class? Well, the advantage is that the same objects from the same class are able to store the same information and use the same functions. So that's the advantage. So you can see that here you have a class, then you have 4 different objects. But they're going to have the same functions like wheels and whatever other functions they might have. Now the one thing I don't like about this is the examples they give you, like on the previous one, wheels and such. It has nothing related to this quiz that we're creating. So don't let some of their examples confuse you. Again, just follow the exact directions in the labs and you'll do fine. So this talks about how you do a class. So the class, then you just name the class. Then of course you put notes down there, put comments on it. Now you're going to go ahead and create a class, and your class is going to be called its question class. So first you're going to put the comment in, define the question class, and now here's where you make the class of objects that is called question. That's like the category. Class is like category, brackets, semicolon, etc. And you're going to use a couple of different types of variables. You're going to do private variables that they can only be used by the objects or the functions, but then later on we're going to do public variables. Don't get too concerned about the language on this. Just again, do exactly what the program says you need to do. So now you're adding private variables. Follow these directions so you can see private, and that has a colon, not a semicolon. Then you put the string in there, the answers, whatever the answers is, and of course we use string variable because people are going to be typing in text. So you'll just put all this information here, making sure you use the correct punctuation, whether it's a colon, semicolon, whatever it is. Make sure you do this exactly. Now you go to create the objects. So we created the class, but now we need to create the objects. Let's take a look at the write-up, see if we have any other questions. We don't have another question until page 11, public variables and functions. So now you're going to create the objects for that class that we just created, that class that we call question. So creating an object, you can see right here, we're going back up to the top of our document, and here's we're going to create the instances of question 1, and etc. So just follow these steps. And now there's public variables and functions. And the nice thing about this, since they're public, that means they can be used by other parts of the program. If they are private variables and functions, then they can only be used within the object where they're set up. So the public variables and functions can be used by other parts of the program because they're open. And what we want to do is we want to go to the class connect write-up, make sure we answered that question. Are public variables and functions used? Just talked about that, right? Okay. And moving along on this. So test yourself on this. In the following class definition, which variables or function can be used by the main function? Select the best answer. Well, can private functions variables be used by another place in the program, or can public? Well, let's take a look right here. So private, we have wheels and speed. So if we choose wheels and speed, let's see what it says. A review again. So we know that private can only be used for the class they're written for, but public can be used for anything within the program. So let's see if speed up and speed down. Yes, that's the right answer. A function is a method that a class is used when it does a call. And again, you don't need to worry too much about the language or the terminology and such. Just, again, follow the directions as you go through the labs. So now you need to declare a public method. And to declare that, you can see that it's going to be public and then colon. So remember, this is colon. A lot of these things are semicolon. Be careful with that. And then, of course, you're going to type exactly what it says right here. And of course, you can't see it out here, but you do want to make sure that you type in this exact stuff. And often what I'll do, I'll just highlight that line, right-click, and that actually says copy link location. I don't want to do that. I could do Control-C, and then I could just paste these words right into my C++ program where I'm working. So we're still in Lab 2. So now this talks about writing methods. So methods are written a little bit different than regular functions. So you can see how a regular function is written, but then a method is considerably different because it has the colons in the middle of it. So just be careful as you do the work, as you go through the lab, to do things right. So after the last closing bracket in your program, so you're going down to the bottom of your program, and you're going to start adding these things in. And I would encourage you on especially long ones like this that have you doing lots of things, watch the demonstration. That could really help. So you can see that you're adding some different types of brackets, curly brackets and things like that. All these answer items you put in there. So we're finding storage locations for the answers that people give. Calling methods, so again, just a change from what we're used to in other programming that we've done. You can see they have a dot between object name and method name. So just be careful, a period in between. Just be careful on what you type. Now to call that method that we just created, so we're going up to the main function to do this work. And you can see what we're doing here. So what this says is going to print on the screen, and it's also going to play a sound. Or actually, it won't play a sound. This is going to be the choice of the answers. So this is a multiple choice question. So what does count do? And then they're going to have these three things that they can respond to. So now formatting your code, really important. Make sure that your code is formatted properly so the computer knows what you want to do. So you're going to format your code like this. So make sure the code you put in has the quotations, commas, all that stuff in the right place. Because this is what's going to print on the screen when the person runs this quiz. So it's going to have you debug, fix your bugs, repeat the steps until you don't have any bugs. And it says your program should print the title screen. It won't print the questions yet because we haven't done that. But you should get the title screen on your screen. So you should get this part on your screen without any bugs. If you have bugs, then get those fixed. Get all this stuff fixed before you move ahead. And now, write a method. So open your Quiz Show project. I've talked about how to do that before. Naming variables. So you can see right here, they've already given the answers, but which ones would be actual variables you could use? Well, sandwiches, because it's all one word, count with the underscore, and golf clubs with the underscore. But these other ones cannot be variables the way that they are written. Now let's go to the write-up and see if we have a question here. In Lab 3, it says, give 3 examples of valid variables. Well, we just looked at the screen that had valid variables on it, didn't we? And I'd appreciate if you would give different valid variables than the 3 they show here. Okay, so now we're doing some global variables. And global variables are ones that can be used throughout the program. So you can see right here global variables because they can be used for all functions and methods in the program. So we're going to create a global variable called guess and winnings, and they can be used over and over. So we need to declare them first. So we're up near the top of our document. And you can see where that's going to go. So we're declaring those 2 variables right here. You have to declare a method for the variables. So make sure you go to the right place in your program, and so just before this closing bracket, you're going to type void ask question brackets. So right here, parentheses rather than brackets. So make sure you're in the right place to do that. Again, just following these directions. This is the last closing bracket in your program, so this is going to be way down at the bottom of your program where you're starting to do this method. So follow along with this. You can see everything you're going to do with it. So do exactly what it has there. Watch the demonstration if you need to. Now I have to call a method. We've done this a little bit before, so you can see we're going to put the comment in here. And then the method we're going to call is right here, the ask question method. Now go ahead and run it, and it should print on your screen, and you should get the first question to come up. If not, then check yours against this. Please check it before you move on. Check every line. And really pay attention to the colons and semicolons. You might have those mixed up. Now we're going to put in the process to award prize money if somebody does well on their answers. So you can see how you're going to be doing that. So you're going to add all of these things in. Just keep going down. You are correct. You're going to tell a person they're correct. Here's how much money you won. So follow that. Follow those steps, please. Check your work. As it says here, program should award you $2,500 if you get the answer to question number 1 correct. Because we told it right here. It's worth 2,500 points. Now, if somebody gets an answer wrong, what are we going to do? I'll just follow these steps as usual. Of course, their total winnings might change. So run it again. So type in a wrong answer, see if it tells you what's wrong or that you missed it. If not, go back and fix your code, please. Now we're going through and adding another question. So you've done this before, but this is going to walk you through it. Change the question to a trivia question you'd like to ask. So here you're going to put your own question in. So what you're going to do, what they want you to do, is you're going to copy the first question's values and all of that. So you're going to copy all of this information. And then once you copy and paste it, then of course you're going to change information on it. You're going to create your own question. Create your own answers that make sense. So do all of this. And again, watch the demonstration. That can help you out. So make sure the winnings increase when you get the right answer. So you'll go through this and it should do questions 1 and 2. So we looked at how to declare, write, and call a method, and we use global variables. Okay, hang in there. So now we're into lab 4. We're looking at the high score process. So open up your project the correct way. I've told you how to do that before. So we have to do a couple of local variables. One is going to be a high score variable and then a string for the high score name, because with the string it has to be used for text, right? So we need to declare the variables. So you can see where you're going to do those right up below your void main. So there you're declaring both of those variables. Then you have to initialize them. So right after you declare, then you do the initialize, and there are the different scores you're going to have. So you can see that these scores, these are in an array, aren't they? An array of 5. And we talked about that before right here. The number 5, that means it's an array of 5. You can see that they're backloading this with names of people and their high scores. Then you'll see the high scores people have. Now you have to use a for loop, and a for loop is used to count. So as you see right here, this initiates the letter I starting at 0, and then what it says, as long as I is less than 10, then this says add 1 to I every time. So the first time it runs through, I is 0, the next time I is 1, I is 2, I is 3, then it will stop once I equals 10. And this tells you right down here what that does. So adding that loop, so you can see what that would do if you ran just this kind of a program. So test ourselves on this. How many times will the following loop run code inside the brackets? Well, let's take a look up here. It equals I equals 0, and we want to run it until I is no longer less than 5. So run it as long as I is less than 5. So it would run it at I equals 0, I equals 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So it would run 5 times. Now you're going to go ahead and insert that loop. So make sure you're in the right place. This is really important. You have to be in the exact place to insert that loop. So before the last closing bracket in the main function, add a few lines and type high score, so you can see where you're supposed to do all this stuff. So go through and do all of that. Check your work, so it should print a high score list. When you get through the question, you should get a high score list. And here's all the code for yours, so yours should look exactly like that. Initialize variables for a starter high score list, use the loop command. Now let's go back here and let's see the Class Connect write-up question. I'm sure we had one, and it said, explain what a for loop does. Well, we saw that, didn't we? What a for loop does. A for loop runs continually until the value of it equals what is set. So for loop just makes something continue to run time and time again until it reaches the value, and then it's supposed to stop. So that was lab 4. Now we're getting to lab 5. So you open the project the right way. And let's go back to the write-up, because I want to make sure I don't miss the question. So lab 5, C++, what does a stream do? Okay, so now in lab 5, you want to let computers read information from a file, and then they write information when they store information. So we're going to do that on this program. So the fstream library. So we're adding another library. So you can see the IO stream we've done before, and now we're doing this fstream library. So string library and an fstream. Make sure you add those in the right place. Now a stream is information that travels to or from a program. So that's what a stream does in C++. Information goes to or from a computer program. So this would help you pull information from a file on your computer or add information to a file on a computer. You have to create the stream first. So you can see the information over here. So to create the output stream, so you're going to put a comment. So of course this comment right here, output the high scores to a file. Then right here, this tells the computer you're going to output the high scores. Now to open and close the streams, they have to be told what to do, so you can see how that's going to be done. So the command to open and close the stream, make sure you get that coded in there properly. Then you have your, we've used the count command before. And it's going to be those double arrows that will output the information to a file. So that helps send the information to a file, new information to store it on a computer. So to output that high scores list, we first need to tell it to run through the scores, put in the proper brackets, and then we tell it to output high scores. So follow those directions. Then run it, and it should look like it did before, but now your program outputs the scores to a text file. Now to check the text file on your computer, then you go to your profiles, your name, where you've been saving everything, go to your quiz show folder, and it says you should have a text file in there that ends up being created. And then, so take a look at that text file, and it should look just like this when you did your last run, your last debug. So this gives you the list of high scores, doesn't it? So that's written to a text file. So you've told the program to make up that text file to list the high scores. And now you're going to put an input file, so then information will be input into the program. So again, to follow these directions, make sure you put those in the right places, the right punctuation. You need to do a loop to get the input from the users. So follow these directions exactly. So this is going to be the high scores input into the game. Now this talks about, it gets the high score list from the text file that was created, then it uses the list to create the highest score list, a new high score list. So it doesn't really update it correctly, so we need to add the if statement. We'll only use the starter high score list if there's no text files, so we need to add this information in. So you're going to add that if statement. So make sure, again, you're in the right location. And you can see this is going to be an array of 4. So follow these directions to get that to work properly. Now run it again. Your high score list should look the same, but your program should be reading the scores from the text files. We just told it to do that. So check your program. So when you run it, you should go look at that text file. So what this wants you to do is change the value of the top score to 35,000. Then save it. And then run your program by going through the debug. Start without debugging. And instead of using the default starter list of high scores, you should see the 35,000 show up in your list of high scores. So what you've done is you've programmed that text file to create another high score, a different high score. So we've done all this, created an input-output file stream, opened and closed it, read information to a text file, and we wrote information to a text file. And we're in the last lab. So what does a stream do? We talked about that, right? And then for lab 6, purpose of the pause statement. Okay, lab 6. So open your project the right way. And now we're going to put a condition in a for loop. So you see the for loop's condition goes in the parentheses. So we've just done conditions like I for as long as I is less than 5. But you can have some really complex formulas for for loops. So this says for I equals 4 and winnings are greater than the high score, then it's going to do certain things. So the value of I starts at 4 this time, and then it decreases. You can see right here, it decreases down through the loop. So you're going to create a variable for rank, so then it's going to start ranking the scores. So add all this information in, and this one's kind of a complex one. There are lots of things to put in here. So what I would suggest you go through this is go ahead and watch the demonstration to get a better idea of what you need to do with this. And you can always you can hit pause right here, so you can pause that demonstration and then have your C++ program open and then do what it did, then run the demonstration, then see what it does, go to your program, do it, and then pause the presentation, etc. So check your work, and this one should tell the player if they got the high score, but the high score list won't update with the new score. So it should tell them they got high score. Now we're going to put a command, hey, you did get the high score. So you can see the lines here that we're going to do. You can see how it's going to put the person up, move them up in the ranks of the high scores. So follow those steps. So now you have to this is going to write to that text file because it's going to add the new score in whenever there's a new score. So the person's going to, just like lots of games, you'd enter your name if you got the high score, and then it would then put you up at the high score. So the program should tell the player they got a high score and update the high score list with the player's name and the amount that they won. Now you're going to add more questions. So question 3, and remember what you're going to do is just take all the information from question 2, highlight all of it, then paste it down below, and then change to question 3. It's going to be a question that you want to ask, and then your answers would be logical ones for whatever question you ask. Change the number below the last answer to be the number of the answer that is correct. So like right here, so that means the second one up here is the correct answer. Then how much money do you want to give people if they win it? You can put whatever amount of money you want in there. Repeat the steps until you have at least 5 or 6 questions. So that's the steps to make question 3. So you want to make questions 4, questions 5, and question 6. As this says right here, add one question at a time, then test your program before you move on. So that's a smart thing. Then if you have an error, you only have one thing to check. Now the idea behind all this is check often. And as you go through this, make sure your winnings increase as you go through the quiz. Add more questions if you want to. Now the pause command. And what does the pause command do? What the pause command does, of course, we've learned before, the pause command will stop the program, stop the black screen so you can see your answers. If you don't have the pause command, then the program just quits and goes away. So now you're getting to the final stages here. So here's all the coding you should have. And make sure yours is exactly right. And it can really pay off to go through this line by line and fix your coding. So, once you get it, you run it, and then of course you know that it debugs automatically, or it debugs, and when it debugs it creates an exe file. So you go to where yours is located, go into your quiz show, and then go to the debug folder and run your quiz show from the exe file. So that's what I do. And if it runs from the exe file, then that's probably good. Okay, so we did all of this. We created a quiz program. We learned lots of new things: class, object, private variable, public variable, methods, loops, etc. So that's it. Now there's a challenge, and we're not doing this, but we can create another program. We can add in some more questions, save changes to high scores, whatever we want to do. But hopefully yours is going to come out like this. Okay, I look forward to these coming in. And again, I cannot stress enough, pay attention to the coding and things will work out fine. Thanks everyone. Bye.